All right. Well, Tim, thank you so much for being a guest on the Multiply Your Success podcast. And just by way of getting started with an introduction, I'd love for you to give us your name and your title and your company.
Yeah, it's Tim Redmond. I'm the founder of Redmond Growth Consulting. We work mainly with contractors, but virtually any kind of business, and we help them 10x their sales and their bottom line profits, and 10x the time they have to spend time on what they want to do. So,
well, I love that.
Results. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and certainly whenever you hear the 10x and multiplying by big numbers, it's always intriguing. So just by way of getting started on a quick conversation here, what are some of those things that you do or to help 10x? I'm sure people are curious.
Yeah. Well, we have this one plumber, like contractor. He came to us with about $90,000 a month. He and his partner, actually brother-in-law, they were working about 80, 90 hours a week. And so what we did with them in the first 4 months is they were spending $30,000 a month on paid leads. So we reduced that from 30 down to 13,000. We pocketed 17,000. And then we cut their time down. Now this took about 2 years. We cut their time down from 90 hours a week down to 40 hours a week. Last month, they just did $820,000. So it's not quite 10x yet, but we're about 2.5 years into this thing. And what we've done is we've helped them with their reputation management. So we do that through managing their Google My Business. We help them get over 1,000 Google reviews, 5-star Google reviews from valid customers, huge deal. Help them in their hiring processes. They couldn't hire. They were looking for master plumbers in the Denver area. And it's just like a mass contractor. You talk to any contractors and they're like, there's no people out there that want to work, for them to show up. They usually show up late, high or drunk or all three. And they just want to get a paycheck. And so it's like a miracle. It's like Moses parting the Red Sea when people actually show up. So we've helped them build up. They're at, I forget, 6 trucks. And I think they're approaching 25 trucks right now. It's just, so each element of their business, their marketing process, their sales process, their hiring process, their training process, the accountability system, which is huge. There's certain specific elements that we work with them, and I can drill down as deep as you want to go, specifically with 100 different clients if you want what we've done on that. So don't want to tease your listeners.
Well, perfect. Well, and look, this is one of the topics I wanted to ask about is this idea of something you had listed in as part of the onboarding for our show here is what successful entrepreneurs do that struggling entrepreneurs ignore, and talking about some of that. I'd love for you to talk about that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, and look, we're working with contractors. We work with healthcare, urgent care centers, specialty docs, pain management, chiropractors. And there's a whole bunch of those people in the same town, offering the same services. And so what we've done is we've helped them develop what Seth Godin wrote. I'm sure you read the book 20 years ago. It's called The Purple Cow. It's helping them set up a purple cow in their business. So you're driving by a farm and you pass some cows and they're mooing along. They're black and white and brown cows, some combination. But if there was a bright, shiny purple cow in the middle of that, you were 5 years old when you saw it, you'd still be talking about it, however old you are now, decades later. So, the purple cow is, what is the unique thing that they use to stand out? You think, well, what does a plumber do? They fix toilets. How do you make that unique? And so we had one plumber actually here in Tulsa. He drove up. We just started working together. He drove up in his van, and honestly, God, Tom, he had this sign, his company name. Then he had "We Wear Belts." I go, well, why do you do the "We Wear Belts"? What's that? Well, he said plumbers are famous for showing their butt cracks, And so we built a purple cow around his. Now get this. This is honest to God. a no butt crack guarantee. So they had on their stuff where, if you see our butt crack during our service, labor is free, So they, honestly, God, they would have, you're the no butt crack company, right? Yeah, we are. And they're laughing on the phones like, we want you coming out, and their phones got busier than they can handle. So it's really been a lot of fun. So the first thing is really just, well, how unique are you? Why should people choose you versus somebody else? So that's the first thing that a lot of average or poor performing companies, they want to market to everybody. And I want to say, Tom, this may be paradoxical or ironic, but I believe that you can widen your reach by narrowing your focus. Widen your reach by narrowing your focus. So don't be all things to all people. Be an expert in something and build your growth around that expertise. So that's part of that purple cow. Another thing here, to answer your question, is a lot of times it's just that very thing I just mentioned is we're trying to market to everybody. Well, who's your market for? Well, I've got it narrowed down specifically to any human being that's still breathing. Well, that's too broad of a reach, right? So, it's like narrowing your focus. What do you, I'm working with my son. And he's looks like a Greek statue, but he's a fitness trainer. And he's going very, very specifically after accountants and finance people, young professionals. He's a finance major. He played football in college, but he was like finance major of the year. And so he's really, really smart guy and all that. But he's going after the area that he was trained in. And it's a very specific niche that he's going after. So let's not be afraid of niching down into something very specific and really identify who are your clients specifically. And then in one sentence or two sentences, how would you describe their pain? Because really, a good company, they're going to have the 3 Ps. They're going to identify the pain that they solve. So they're looking for pain. Whenever you talk about somebody's pain, they're interested in talking about their pain. If they think that you've got the promise, you make a promise to make their pain go away. You make a promise to solve their problem. And then the 3rd P is you provide proof that you've done it. You look at our Google reviews and we've got almost 400 5-star Google reviews. These are from other contractors and doctors and manufacturing companies. And basically we've got over 1,000 companies, really closer to 2,000 companies that we've actually helped one-on-one with our coaching service, my coaching team. And so you've got to make sure you've got other people that are going to talk about you. And I use a proverb from the Bible, the book of Proverbs. And the Bible, it says, in one place, it says, don't praise yourself, let others do it for you. And so we want to get everybody and their pet dog bragging about how awesome it is to do business with the Big Sky franchise team, man. You got this, ungodly percentage of people that have no idea the worth of their company, and they got 96% of the people want to retire from their business, but they don't know the value of their business. So I heard your purple cow, I heard your narrow focus, man. Boom, A+. So that's what we want companies to do, and that's what I think will really help them out.
Yeah,
I can spend all day talking about this. This is what we do. Is we identify the squeaky wheel, and we make it run smooth. But does that answer your question though?
It does. Yeah. And you were just mentioning you help identify that squeaky wheel and make it not squeaky and help fix that problem there. So, and before we went live on the air, you were actually talking about a free offer you were going to offer to the listeners in. So I'd love for you to talk about that here real quick.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what we do, Tom, is we have this process that once we identify a lead from a referral or an ad or however they came in, our SEO, we want to qualify them to say, hey, are you the kind of client we're looking for? We don't want to waste our time with you, and we don't want to waste your time. And so once we identify them as somebody that could work, then we provide what we call a growth plan. Now we charge $2,500 for that growth plan, because we bring them through an analysis of their business. We identify their capacity versus where they're at, which is huge. And then we find out what their 3-year plan is. And based on those things, we will actually provide concrete action items, at least 8 or 10 of them, sometimes 15 of them, where they can do on their own, or we're a do it for you coaching company. So we're going to give you the blueprint, then we'll do 99% of the work to implement it. So, but we're going to identify these 8 to 10 concrete action items. And if they'll do that, that alone will add at least $100,000 profit to the business in the next 12 years. They get a huge, I mean, what does that make it? About a 40 times return on their money, But if they'll talk about how much they love Tom and how much they love the Big Sky franchise team, we'll waive that fee. It's free of charge. So just email me, Tim at Redmond Growth, or call us, or get a hold of us, redmondgrowth.com. I don't know whether you have show notes, you can put all that in there. But if they'll do that and they'll say, hey, we love Tom, we love Big Sky, and we want that free, we want you to waive that $2,500 for the growth plan, we'll bring it through. And it's got to be an actual business as an operation, not something, that in the back of their mind that they've never really run a business before. We help businesses already in existence. We help them 10X, and we help them get the monkey off their back. We like to set the captive free, and the captive is the business owner that's been made a slave of their business, and we create massive freedom for them. So it's a lot of fun. They will love the process, even if they don't like me. Okay.
Well, this is great. Well, one of the things you said, you have a saying that's casualness creates casualties.
Okay. Where'd you find that out? That's awesome. I can't believe you found that out. That's one of my favorite sayings. Okay, go ahead.
So I read that and when I was prepping for our interview, and I thought, we've got to have Tim talk about that. That's a great saying, concise. I love the alliteration, the C's. It's beautiful in every aspect. So talk about that. Casualness
Causes casualties. So that's really what the growth plan is it's a veiled casualness audit. So we're identifying as many things in their business that they may be doing the right things, but to do it casual is almost worse than not doing it, because then you get convinced, oh, this doesn't work. Well, when you're doing things in a half-arsed way that require a full-arsed effort here, you're going to get these mediocre results, right? So, we have identified that, and usually the biggest waste of people's money is in the marketing. Either they're afraid to spend any money at all in the marketing because they've lost a bunch of money, or they're just following after everybody, every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Not this Tom, but other Toms out there. I just made a mistake here. You can erase that from the podcast. But anyways, we're going after just trying to get our marketing. Man, we got the right answer, but nobody's asking us the question. Well, we get that lined up. We get a lot of times people don't know how to ask for a sale. They're horrible salespeople, and if you're doing 70% of the talking and the client's having to do 70% listen, 30%, it just needs to be reverse of that. If a good salesman is they're consultative, they're trying to, what's your needs? And let me show you how we'll give you a big promise to make your pain go away. And I'll provide you proof that we've already done it specifically for that problem you're talking about. Boom. So we help identify that casualness. A lot of times there's a casualness in hiring, if you don't get the right people on your team, you're sunk. The main way you build wealth is you build a team. End of story.
Yeah. Well, that's actually leads. I wish we had, this was perfect. We didn't even prep this before the show, but one of my questions was talking about teamwork and the difference between high performing teams and mediocre teams. And what is that difference?
What I say that's missing from mediocre performing teams that creates a lot of casualties, really, or we define a casualty as something falling far short of your goal, as you know. And what a lot of these teams miss is the word respect. And I define respect, Tom, as we usually look at respect. Let me just say this. We usually look at respect as something we demand that person respect us. No, respect is not something that you demand. Respect is not something that other people give you. Respect is something that you give to other people. Respect is valuing the differences without having to agree. It's not just tolerating, but it's actually celebrating that difference. Okay. So I've been married for 33 years. All right. And my wife and I were very similar in a lot of ways, but we just think like we're on different planets. One guy said Mars and Venus. And so, you know, the way I respect her, I have not respected her with some of the investments that we've made. And we've lost in today's dollars well over $2 million. My head's strong. You don't know what you're doing, honey. What do you mean you don't have a good feeling about this? That's not logical. And so I didn't respect those differences. I didn't value the differences. I judged it. I tolerated it. I let it irritate me rather than celebrating it. And it's like a 1 + 1 = 11, not 2. You know, and that's what we're talking about, is just really tapping into the greatness. In my team, I don't have a huge team here, but I've got 6 coaches and some salespeople, and we got a back end that does SEO and, you know, a good number of people. And, you know, we ask this question a lot. You know, what stupid thing are we doing that we need to stop today? And we try to create an environment where if they speak up, they don't feel like they're going to get fired, because usually I'm the one mentioned as the one doing the stupid thing, you know, and so, or what stupid thing aren't we doing? It's stupid that we're not doing that we need to start doing today. And so that's the kind of stuff where you really are going to pull a lot more out of your people when you respect them. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Yeah. That's brilliant. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Simple thought, but harder to apply.
Yeah, no, it's a great, even asking those questions. What are we doing that if someone else were to look at this, were to think, what is wrong with you? Right.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
what is wrong with you? You're really doing that. And then from the other side, what should we be doing that someone would look at us and say, I can't believe you're not doing fill in the blank. I think those are brilliant questions, brilliant takeaways to be talking about and sharing that immediate impact for any business leader that will end up listening into this.
And watch yourself from going on the defensive, because if you get real defensive, you know, what you're doing is you're just saying, listen, I asked for your feedback, but I really don't want you to be honest with me. So you have to, I remember working with some guy that he had one of the leading productivity experience-based learning programs out there. And they're just one of the biggest out there in the country. And he said, hey, listen, I want you to coach me. I want you to basically follow me around. I said, what's your biggest problem? Well, nobody's being creative in my organization. And then, so I watched him. And then after a day and a half, we had lunch. And I said, well, do you want me to give you feedback that's honest? Or you want me to pull off the gloves? Or you want me to put some velvet on? He goes, pull off your gloves, give it to me straight. And so I gave it to him straight. And I says, you are not interested in getting feedback from anybody. Your organization lacks creativity because every time they're creative, you shut it down. He goes, I don't see it. I don't agree with you. And then I listed 28 items. Honest to God, Tom, I listed 28 items of the time of the day and who he was talking to and what he asked, and then how he shut them down 28 times in a day and a half. And it went just boom, his head exploded. And of all the CEOs I've ever worked with, he made an immediate change that just his staff immediately felt. And it was pretty amazing. But so you've got to be open. If you want to bring the greatness out in your people, you have to be open to a different perspective on something you may be convinced is like, well, this is the only way to look at it, So it's called the power of an expanded perspective. And the ingredient to make that happen is respect.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great story by the way, that you shared there.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, what I'd love to do at this point is make a transition, and we ask every guest before they go the same 4 questions.
Okay.
And so question 1 is, have you had a miss or 2 in your career and something you've learned from it?
Yeah. A miss or 2, I would say, let's put about 4 zeros on the end of that, So, I coach as much out of need as I do mastery. So one of the huge misses in my life, honestly, God, because we built it into a formal part of we apply all of our own coaching to our own business, our financial accountability, everything we do, we follow it ourselves. One of the biggest misses I made in my career is when I got out on my own, I did not create a sales process, a deliberate, intentional sales process. Our sales process has 4 steps. And we do things on each part of the pipeline to stimulate that agent at that part of the pipeline. And so many of my clients, they go into this feast or famine. They got work and they're pound on it. They're working away on it. And they're just, no, I don't have time for my pipeline. I'm just too busy. They get done with the work and then they look at their pipeline and it's like skinny, it's starving. It's like there's nothing going on. And so to set up a deliberate process where I worked on each of the 4 phases of my pipeline to make sure each of those phases was filled up with opportunity. Huge miss.
Yeah. Well, let's thank you for sharing that. And let's look at the opposite end of that. How about a make or 2 that you could share? I saw your bio beforehand and what you've shared. I mean, you have a tremendous track record of success. So are there some highlights you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think I think one of the most important ways of building a business is you've got to have the right people. And equally is selecting the right people. And it's like you hire for attitude and you train for skill. So don't just look at a resume. As a matter of fact, our hiring process, we look at the resume as the very last thing that we look at before we offer somebody a job. We cut down people's time by 75% with our hiring system. And so building a team and getting the right people on board is half that equation. The other half of the equation is being deliberate with pouring into them, actually setting up structures in your business where you're training them as you go. So I remember hiring my son. I got 3 sons and a daughter. And I hired my number 2 son to work in the business with me. And I just made sure that he followed me around. He could hear me in the sales process. He can hear me in the coaching processes. And that was the training. And I spent a lot of time just pouring into him on breaking down certain coaching calls that he had. And so we get so busy as entrepreneurs, we're just running with our hair on fire, trying to make it to the end of the week before we die, burn up. And so the big thing that I've done really well is picking good people to come on board and pouring into them to make sure they can succeed in what we need them to succeed in.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, let's talk about multiplier that you've used. The name of the show is Multiply Your Success. And we always get a great variety of responses, but have you used a multiplier in growing yourself personally, the business, professionally, that you'd like to share?
Yeah. Maybe a couple things, and I'll be fairly quickly here, Tom. One is having a morning routine where I invest in myself. And if I don't keep filling myself up, because some days I'm just emptied. It's like, And if you start the day like you were the night before, you start on empty, man, you're just going to get, people are going to run into all kinds of reactions. It's nothing that you look back on the end of the day and you go, gosh, that was the worst version of myself ever. So if I want the best version of myself to show up, I have a morning routine. I go to the Bible every day because that's the source of wisdom for me and my faith, and kind of grounds me on something that's a lot wiser than me. I pour into a book or two that I'm reading, and so I'm filling myself up. I have a mantra that I speak to myself. It's speaking to myself about my life and my values and my goals and where my company is going and where my marriage is. And I get myself charged up. I spend a lot of the day talking down on myself, getting onto myself. Tell me that you've done that at least once or twice, Tom. Don't make me feel like I'm out here.
Of course.
I'm confessing to my priest here. But I like to say this, that if you had a friend that spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would they still be your friend? And so it's like, stop making a case against yourself, just talk, build yourself up, because it's from that abundance that you're going to respond to the world around you. And I want the best version of myself to show up. So that's a big thing that multiplies me. And then just really thinking about, I don't think about how I'm but I think really big, and I get really obsessed with what it is I want. I give myself freedom. I'm 61. At 60 years of age, I bought my very first brand new car for myself. Why? Because I'm an accountant. I don't think, well, why would you drive off and leave $20,000 on the car lot here with depreciation, But no, I bought a new Tesla, so it's actually worth more than when I bought it, but I got it with all the extras and all that kind of stuff. So it's good to invest in yourself, to build yourself up, to feel like you're worthy of the investment. And it's from that abundance you're able to respond to other people, and really get after it. So.
Yeah, thank you. And the final question we like to ask every guest is, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, I think the lowest form of wealth is money. It's not a bad form of wealth. It's just, there's nothing created on that. It's just the means of transfer. The highest form of wealth, I believe, is in relationships and creating value in those relationships. And so success to me is having really successful relationships, starting first with my wife. And even though we're very different, I'm thinking, how could she take, I said this, but she took that for what? I'm a clueless male. Okay. So you ladies there, you're shaking your heads. Yes, I'm married to a clueless male too. So just really making sure those relationships are rich. I'm a get it done kind of guy. And I think function and getting stuff done before I think of relationships. So my wife is like slowing me down. Say, hey, hi, before you get into business, hey, how you doing? So I'm actually learning to do that better. And I think success too, to me, is I'm working towards building a business that can run without me working in it all the time. I love work. I have a 25-year plan that I'm pursuing until I'm 85. And when I'm 85, I anticipate getting another 25-year plan then. I just always want to have something to work towards. Yet I don't want the businesses I build to be reliant on me. And that's what I help business owners do, but I've got to apply it to myself. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
as we draw this to a close here, is there anything you were maybe hoping to share that you haven't had a chance to get across yet?
Well, here's what comes to mind here real quick is, there are some people that want to just think about doing it. And I would say dream big and act boldly. Get off your bum and do the thing you've been putting off for waiting for things to be perfect. Do it imperfectly. And what you learn from the motion is worth more than what you mess up by not having it perfect. So get off your blessed assurance and get busy on that one thing you know you want to work on. Get working on it.
Well, that is a great way to close this out. Thank you so much. I really,
Tom,
really
it's been fun. That's been really fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.